Ohio does not have one-size-fits-all problems.
Right now, there are real people out there with real problems, real problems.
You know, we want to see change. We've been beat down, what I say, for the last several years, that we want to see change in.
I sincerely doubt that the people in Columbus have any idea what it takes to run a small business or to be responsible to make payroll every week. I think, for the most part, they're career politicians, and I think what you get from a career politician is somewhat predictable.
And they're worried about themselves, and they're worried about their next election, and they're worried about who gave them money.
We've got to end sweetheart deals for career politicians.
Give me a choice between a name and somebody who's gotten the job done. I'll take the guy that gets the job done.
I think it's time for a different view and a different voice.
And you need somebody who's going to be creative and come up with different solutions.
Ohio is tired of status quo. Ohio wants to move forward, and the career politicians and stuff that's out there cannot move this state forward.
I grew up in a working-class union family back in Western Pennsylvania. My mother was a nurse, my father was a railroad worker, my grandfather was a coal miner.
I think Jim always recognized the work and sacrifices that his family made.
Growing up, we struggled, but we did the best we could. My husband was laid off.
We had to make sure we could still make ends meet.
So anytime Jimmy saw anything in a newspaper, he'd go after it.
It was a town that really believed in that hard-working, blue-collar family. It was a town where we were able to believe in anything. And that was the one good thing about growing up in Western Pennsylvania in a small town like that. Taking those values, learning those values.
I will say this. He believes in God. And I think that when you do that and you know he's around you all the time, you make the best decisions.
I still remember the date, February 7th, 1983, I came to Ohio. I moved here with, came here in a little Dodge Plymouth Champ and $100. The first thing I did was realize that the American dream was possible here in Ohio. When I moved here 34 years ago, I started my first business at 24. I tell people that I'm not sure that climate's available anymore. I'm not sure Ohio lets you do that anymore. I mean, Ohio was the land of opportunity. I think some opportunities are slipping away.
Because he values giving back, he became a volunteer firefighter.
I joined the fire department because I also was a fireman, and my family was a family worth of firefighters. So I had an uncle on the fire department, I had a brother-in-law on the fire department, I had family members on the fire department.
It kind of speaks to who Jim is.
Jim lived next door to me. We would ride to calls together and everything because we were both volunteers.
I was a big believer in always giving back.
He's the reason there's all this other activity in the city of Wadsworth because he turned it around when he became the mayor.
He was his small town mayor. He was a guy who bought his community's dealership, Chevy dealership, because people needed that job.
General Motors came to me and asked me if I would take that Chevy dealership over and turn it around. And I decided, you know what, I'll do that. And we were able to turn it around in 5 or 6 years. Federal government stepped in 2009 and took over General Motors. I end up getting a letter from General Motors that says, you are no longer going to be part of the General Motors family. I can tell you that was one of the toughest days in my life. That's what's wrong, when government can come in and take something from you. That's the reason I went to Washington. That's the frustration I have. So what I did is I called my congressman, and I says, look, I need your help. I got this business, I have 53 employees, and I need your help. He said, I'll be able to help you. I love small businesses. I love the way small businesses are. So I believed him. I watched his votes. And when I learned that there was a vote came up in July of 2009 to reinstate car dealerships, this member of Congress voted against it. And that, again, was another point in time where I felt that the federal government not only had been interfered, but let me down. I called him up, left him a message. The message basically said, you said you were going to do something, you didn't. You're a politician. I'm going to remove you from that office. And several months later, I jumped into the race.
No, he didn't want to happen to other people what he experienced personally as a businessman.
He did it because he cared about the Wadsworth community. He didn't want businesses in Wadsworth shutting down. And more importantly, he didn't want those 50 people losing their jobs.
And too many times, career politicians are just getting in there, keeping the status quo, as I've heard, not changing things. They've never had to decide on how to make a paycheck. They've never had to decide on how to make a mortgage. They've just been elected and elected and elected. I want to end the regulations that are hurting us.
It's all about putting Ohio first, and Jim's going to put Ohio first.
Simplify our tax code.
Put Ohio first.
I want to end pay for play.
Jim Renacci. Jim will put Ohio first.
But that's the reason I want to be the next governor of the state of Ohio.